Well, I'm going backpacking tomorrow just for one night with a buddy of mine who hasn't done a lot of backpacking. So we're just doing 4 miles in, 6 miles out, and then we're getting to a second car and driving back to the first car in the Kahata Wilderness. Anyhow, I'm just finishing up. My total weight without water is 8.3 pounds. We're expecting about 50 degrees at night, according to the forecast, and no rain. And I just thought I'd show you really quick what I take and why I take it and the weights. One thing that's really interesting about listing all of your gear with the weights is you begin to get a sense of just how heavy certain things are and how light other things are. One really interesting thing is the tarp that's going to keep me dry if it rains only weighs 3.6 ounces, whereas the cereal I eat the next morning is 5.1 ounces, which is pretty amazing. You don't think of things that way. And so just like we've reduced all of goods and services to correspond with a particular dollar amount, it's very interesting to reduce all of the items that you bring to a common denominator being weight. So my prediction says I'll have 8.3 pounds, and I've already weighed this. It's a little bit off, 8.6. That's mainly because the food that I'm bringing, I have an average weight for it, and sometimes the food ends up being a little bit heavier than the average, and so I don't really use that document to predict down to the nth degree what I'm going to have. That's not that important to me, but it is a good ballpark, and it also, for the engineer in me, helps me be organized and gives me a chance to sort of fine-tune my gear, and I kind of find the whole thing fun. So anyway, I'll show you two in my bag. So this is a Gossamer Gear Murmur bag. It's like 12 ounces. It's extremely light. Oh, actually, these carabiners aren't on the list. That's part of it. I've only used this bag once so far for a single overnight, but I do really like it. I had like 9 pounds in it last time, and I have 8.5 pounds in it this time. So I'll just take you through what's in it, and maybe it'll be interesting to you. All right, I have two 8 kilonewton carabiners that I'll use for my hammock. I don't have to use them for my hammock, but I'm going to because it's a little bit more convenient to get the underquilt on, and it's also nice to have a couple of carabiners as backup, especially ones that can hold your weight if your life depended on it and you were in an emergency. And then I have a couple of these super little mini beaners that are just useful for organizing stuff on a clothesline. I have a smart water bottle. Actually, I have a second one I'm going to take. I just forgot. I have gone through the whole stage of bringing 2 Nalgene's, to bringing water bags, to bringing smart water bottles, and maybe I'll do some video on that some other time. Okay, here in the front pouch, I have this new item from a company called Dutchware. It is a Dyneema tarp that goes over my hammock. It was very expensive. I almost sewed it myself, but the cost savings was going to be relatively low sewing it myself, and I'd never sewed Dyneema, and I didn't want to screw it up. So this weighs like 3.5 ounces. It's incredible how light and strong this stuff is. It feels very plasticky, yeah, so that was something I purchased. Next, I have on the outside, this is kind of just like my small bag of stuff that I may need. So, and some of this stuff will be distributed through the bag, like in the hip belt pockets, but at the moment it's here. So a little bit of toilet paper, water purification, which is just household bleach. You can Google that if you want. A little bit of hand sanitizer, a couple strips of Leukotape, amazing stuff if you've never heard of it. Look into it. Toothbrush. Then I have some soap, Dr. Bronner soap, and some mosquito repellent, which is probably not needed for this trip, but just in case it is. I don't have a mosquito net on my hammock this time, so just putting a little bit on your face if you're having trouble with the bugs works. And then this is hammock grade. Basically, I can sleep on this. So the reason I bring this is if I don't need extra long rope for my hammock, then I use it as a clothesline. But if for some reason the only tree that I can hammock off of is, 10 feet in diameter, then the ropes that I have on my hammock won't be enough. And I don't want to bring 20 feet every time for no reason. So this is kind of dual purpose. Basically, if the trees are reasonably sized and spaced, I don't need it. I can use it for a clothesline. But if the trees are really far apart or super big around, then I have this as a backup. And then just a little bit of extra cord for a ridge line or guy lines or anything that I need it for. This is only rated to about 100 pounds, but it's very small and lightweight. All right. In the pocket over here, I normally would have like the soap and the hand sanitizer, and maybe a little bit of map, but I know this area almost by like the back of my hand now, and the route we're doing I recently did, and my buddy's gonna have his phone, so we have a few options. I carry a Spyderco Dragonfly. It's a very lightweight but very strong knife. Most of the time you're out in the backcountry, in a context like this, you're going to be using this to cut cord, so that's why I like the serrations. And then a modified Nitecore NU25 headlamp. Okay, that's everything on the outside of the bag. Again, I would have a few things on the outside of the bag normally, but at the moment it's still kind of all packed. Okay, so in the bag itself, this is my homemade hammock. So this is 1 ounce Hyper D fabric from Ripstop by the Roll. And inside I have some cord like this. And then I also have on the other end some cord like this, red for head. So that way I know what as I'm setting it up, I don't have to try and figure out which side is the head side. So this is like 8 ounces. Then I have my cooking pot, which is a Evernew 570 milliliter sort of cup pot with a homemade titanium lid. This is a little bit of microfiber towel from MSR, which is nice to have sometimes for cleaning up. A folding MSR spoon. Something that's not available on the market. This is a mini Kojin from Trail Designs, since I'm working with them on a little project. Small mini Bic lighter. And then this is the Cone windscreen pot holder from Trail Designs called the Sidewinder, and a little bottle of alcohol fuel. And if I happen to run out of fuel, which I never have, you can start a small campfire underneath this and use sticks and pine cones and all those kinds of things to make a natural fire and boil your water. It's rated for that. And I've never had to use that, but it's a good backup. And it also keeps you from being super nervous and psychotic about measuring the right amount of alcohol and not bringing too much, because you always have a backup plan. Okay, next thing I have is kind of all my food. This is only basically I have 3 meals. I have 3 lunch dinners and a breakfast. So we're gonna start hiking around 11. We'll probably get to the waterfall around 1, so we'll have lunch at the waterfall, then dinner at the waterfall, breakfast at the waterfall, and then 1 lunch out, and then we'll be to our car. So if you're interested in the food that I eat and use, go to Andrew Skirka's website. I use his recipes more or less with ever so small modifications. So this is what he calls beans and rice and Fritos and cheese. This is peanut noodles, so it's a peanut sauce, cashews, and ramen noodles. This one is pesto noodles. We ran out of pine nuts. This is toasted pecans, a pesto sauce, Parmesan cheese, and ramen noodles. This is, I'm not a big fan of his breakfast recommendations. A lot of them I didn't like, but this is basically homemade granola that my wife made and powdered milk. So when you add water, it's basically like milk and cereal warm. One comment about food, in case you're wondering. So you generally want to use things that are dehydrated because you save a lot of weight. The problem is that there's basically 2 ways to dehydrate things. There's like the freeze-dried option, and then there's like dehydrated. We own a dehydrator, but we've not used it in years. It's a little bit annoying and cumbersome. And the freeze-dried stuff, the problem with that is when you go to the store and you get freeze-dried stuff from the grocery store or freeze-dried stuff from the backpacking store, for one, those bags are like $6 to $9 a piece, whereas these cost about $1.50 on average across the backpacking meals that we make. The other problem is because those things need to sit on a shelf and sit in a truck and sit in a warehouse and sit at REI shelves, they can't include things that are fresh like cheese or pecans or sauce. And so there's no fresh ingredients in them. And to keep everything preserved, there's basically tons of sodium. And so I find those meals to be good tasting for the most part, but very expensive, basically very unhealthy. And I also don't like all of the waste and you know, like the bags, you cook this stuff in the bags. And so you have these metally aluminum type bags that are very sharp, and they're difficult to pack up and they're messy and nasty. Whereas this, I pour all of this into my pot, and then at the end, all I have is this baggie, which is very easy to pack. It's clean, there's nothing on it, so I'm not carrying around a bunch of sauce and things like that. In this case, you have a little tub of sauce, but on the Frito beans, you literally have nothing left. And if you're the kind of person who throws plastic in the fire at night, like I am, then you walk away with no trash at all. And for those of you who have issue with that, all I would say is to each their own. But I would say if I bring my plastic back home, someone's gonna bury it in a hill. And it's not completely clear to me that burying it in a hill is better than burning it. So I'll leave it at that. And then we've tried coffee many different ways. And our favorite is this Trader Joe's. It's got a little bit of sugar and a little bit of cream. We don't normally drink coffee with sugar, but that's how this combo comes. These are about 23 cents a piece, or it was 10 for $2.30 when we bought them. So, and then I have I keep with my food, basically the bear bag setup that I have. A little homemade bag. This is a bag that I would fill with rocks to throw up and over the tree. And then I have my 2 lines that go to tree 1 and tree 2. My small plastic ring is a pulley. And then my black line attaches to my bear bag, or my food bag, like this. And then I pull it down. I made another video on that already, so I won't go into too much detail. All right, next in the bag. This is my clothes bag on this trip. So basically, I'm going to hike in convertible shorts, basically shorts that can zip on pants, and a button-up polyester shirt. And since it's not going to be super cold, it's only going to be 50 at night. Basically, I'm bringing this down. This is a Eddie Bauer 800 down jacket with a hood. And this is basically overkill. The problem is that down is so effective weight to performance that in order for me to bring a lighter weight jacket out of fleece or polyester, it ends up being heavier than this. So even this is overkill, it's light and overkill versus being the proper warmth rating, but then being heavier. So that's why I'm bringing this. And if it's really cold, I'll sleep in it, but I probably won't have to. And then because I normally get to camp sweaty, but I know it's going to be a little bit cooler, I don't want to sleep in my hiking shirt, not to mention it's not as soft of a material. So this is a relatively heavy polyester long sleeve shirt from REI, so I'll sleep in that. And here's the pant legs. So I'll probably end up just sleeping in the pants, or the shorts and the pants that I hiked in. We're only going 4 miles, and then we're going to be hanging out at camp for several hours. So it's not as if I'm going to arrive just completely sweaty and then just a cheap pair of wool socks from REI that I've had for 16 years. All right, that's the clothes situation. So then there's basically, oh yeah, a couple more things. Okay, so this is my new down under quilt, which you can see on the channel if you're interested in. I made this yesterday, and this will be my first time sleeping in it. This is also going to be my first time sleeping in this hammock. I have one similar to it, but I haven't slept in that one yet. And then this is a Sierra Designs Nitro top quilt. It's actually the one that came in this bag. This is the blue version, so it's rated for 35. It's the one that says 35F. I'm not going to get into quilt ratings right now, but it's the one that says 35F. My wife owns the one that says 20F. So yeah, and then inside, this bag is not waterproof, so they recommend that you buy one of these little pack liners. And so that was in there. And then what's underneath this, which is sort of trapped at the bottom, is like my little first aid kit. The reason I put it so far away is I don't want to lose it, but I almost never need it. In the last 10 trips I've gone on, I've never needed anything in here. So it's at the bottom of my bag, sort of tucked away so that I never pull it out and drop it, or pull it out and have to put it back. It's just kind of out of sight, out of mind, but I know where it's at. And basically I only go in here if there's been some sort of a problem. So I'll just go through this really quick, what I carry. So I carry a second lighter with a little bit of Tesa tape, which is slightly better than duct tape. Tesa tape can be really expensive. I got a few rolls. I have a few rolls, but an improvement to duct tape is gaffer tape, which is used. You can get it on Amazon. It's used in the film industry, but Tesa tape, gaffer tape are big upgrades. All right, I bring a little bit of Imodium, a little bit antacids, a couple of Benadryl, a couple of Motrin, a little gauze, Tylenol, big gauze, Aqua tabs for water purification in case my bottle of bleach gets destroyed. And then this is basically, there's a needle in here and then some thread wrapped around, and there's a little pair of tweezers in there. So this is like first aid / repair. And basically I'm only going in there if there's been some sort of a problem. A piece of gear has been destroyed, or you know, somebody's hurt or something like that. And that's everything. So this bag is new, this underquilt is new, my hammock is new. I'm using all of those things for the first time, but I've gone where I'm going in the Cohutta Wilderness now 10 or 12 times, and so I'm very familiar with it, and I kind of know what to expect. I know how to predict the weather fairly well, what towns to look at. Blue Ridge and Ellijay are the two of choice. And so there's some stuff that's here that's new, but then there's a lot of stuff I've used before. And this is all coming in at about 8.5 pounds. I'm not gonna start the hike with water because I'll leave the truck hydrated, and it's 4 miles, and I know where the water sources are along the way, and so I don't really, I try to hike with a small amount of water and then drink a lot at camp. And in this case, we are taking a route that I literally did 2 weeks ago, so I know it really well, and I'm not too worried about it. Last thing is this bag. This is a frameless bag, and in the back, basically where your back is touching, they incorporate this sitting pad. It's about 18, maybe, 18 inches long, something like 10, 12 inches wide, and you can use this to sit, or you can put it under your back if you're cold at night. Last time I rolled it up like this, put a rubber band around it, used it as a pillow. That worked all right. But yeah, that's all the gear. And I hope that was interesting or helpful to someone. And if you have any questions or comments, let me know. If not, yeah, have a great day. And if you didn't like this, give it a thumbs down so I know. And go check out Andrew Skurka's website, andrewskurka.com, and see what you can learn from him. All right, folks, take care.